Happy Friday, everyone. All right, we're looking good. All right, happy Friday. My name is Jim Wendler. I'm the author and creator of 531. I hope everyone had a good week. It actually snowed here. It wasn't really bad, but it's been much, much cooler. And man, does it test your resolve in my garage when you train. Anyway, we started our off season this week at London. We took our 1 week off after the season ended, and so we've already had great training sessions, obviously on Monday and Wednesday. Today we are training, and we have the prowler day, so it's going to be super cold, and the field has got a nice layer of ice, so I'm sure the kids will like that because it's going to slide a little easier. At least the first round will. Anyway, if you are a coach, don't take time off or don't take the time for granted. It's a long way off to the next season, but every training session matters. Anyway, if you have a question, ask in the chat. Let me see if I got that right over here on my screen. Look at that. And let's go ahead and get started. Oh my God. All right, here we go. Chris D asks, hi, Jim. I've seen a few photos on your post. Are there benefits to wearing the weight vest while on the assault bike? I don't think so, no. The only reason you probably see me is it's either part of the circuit, or it's a short ride before I start, or a short ride after I'm done with the main work, and I just kind of lazy and don't take it off. But yeah, I probably wouldn't recommend that. I don't think it does anything. Now, the only thing I will say, and this people that have worn weight vest, it takes your body some time to acclimate to the weight vest, even if it's just 20 pounds or so. I'm sure everyone here knows your traps do get fatigued. So if it's just a matter of your body acclimating, I don't see any reason. I mean, I guess you could put it on during the assault bike, but in general, no, I don't. There's no reason to really do it. So, all right, Timmy B says, have you ever had stages where you're strong as far as hitting the weights and numbers you're currently at, but still feel physically weak in general or outside the gym? I mean, when I was at my, strongest in powerlifting, I obviously was not terribly strong outside the gym as far as just general physical preparedness, if that's kind of what you mean. But my goal at the time was not to have a super high GPP or anything like that. My goal was just to squat 1,000 and bench over 600 and total over 2,300, all that other stuff. So my training was very much pointed at or concentrated on what the goal was. So if I'm going to be completely honest, the only time I ever, felt like I was lifting hard and doing all that stuff, and I was kind of weak, so to speak, is when I played football in college, because you're constantly getting reminded of where I was on the totem pole, so to speak. I mean, in the normal world and if I played a lower division of football, I'm sure I would have felt very strong, but that's more of me genetically getting my out kicking my coverage, so to speak. But no, Timmy, I never really felt like that. I don't know exactly what you're asking about, but understand that for the average guy or an athlete, not powerlifting or Olympic lifting or bodybuilding or anything like that, that it's all, and I know I'm beating a dead horse here. It's all about raising your general physical preparedness. And I think a lot of people don't quite understand what that is, but it's just raising all your general physical abilities. All right. Not your skill level in a sport, but just so muscle mass, strength, conditioning, agility, mobility, flexibility, body fat percentage, all that kind of basic stuff where if you were going to go to play softball, let's say, or go hiking or go play a pickup basketball game. Your skill might not be great, but your physical preparedness will be fine. So I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, but I think maybe if you do feel like that, maybe you have to adjust your training. So I don't know if you mean strength as in like picking up a rock or carrying groceries, or if it just means strength to kind of persevere through hard physical stuff. If it is the latter, look at raising your GPP, which if I'm going to be honest, some of your weights are probably going to go down, especially initially. But it's raising your GPP is a lot of different things at once, and that's what concurrent training does. And that's how we train our athletes. That's how every athlete trains, or at least used to train. So anyway, hey, just the other thing is, listen, it's important to raise your strength level. It's one of the most important things I think you can do. But don't get fixated on the numbers, get fixated on the training and the process, and you'll feel much better. So James Manning asks, best way to increase MRV so I can build up my ability to train and recover. I have no idea what MRV is, James. So if you could let me know. I don't know what that means. I am sorry. Okay, we'll get back to that if James asks or responds here. Chris D says, I would like to improve my cleans. Can you offer some advice on programming? Should I use them as a main lift once a week or place them in somewhere else? Current goals to build overhead press, clean, squat, and chins. All right, so you got a lot of things you're trying to improve. Your current goals are 4 things. If I'm going to be honest, I would probably pick 2 of them. So if it's obviously cleans, and I would choose another movement, let's say squat. So that's one of the things. That doesn't mean you don't train the other things. It's hard to raise 4 things all at one time. It really is. Advice on programming. I did cleans, for the first, 10, 15 years of training. I only did them once a week. I didn't feel like I needed to do them more than that, but maybe you can do them twice a week. So once or twice a week, I think is fine. I would do them first in the exercise, but I'd also do, for example, you clean and squat, and then clean and overhead press. So it'd be the first big movement of the day, but I would also probably do something else. If you're going to follow the 5-3-1 programming, I would, use the training max, all that stuff, but only worry about your top set. And I would do multiple sets at the top set between 2 and 5 reps. And I would probably aim for about 10 to 15 total reps, maybe 20 if it's really light, at the top weight. Again, no more than probably 2 to 5 reps. And the other thing is, I think it's super important, and this is something I learned when I was in high school, is you got to get strong too in your other lifts, and not just like squats and all that other stuff. I think it's super important for cleans that you get a very, very strong midsection. I think that is super, super important. And then obviously, if you could do some kind of jumping too, I think that would make a big difference in your cleans. So, but that's what I would do. Once or twice a week, do them before the other main movement you're doing that day. Top set only, between 10 and maybe 20 total reps, no reps between 2 and 5 reps. So, and you don't need to go crazy on the weight either. Let the speed work. Okay. Just like the main lifts that we preach at London here. Dear Man says, hey, Jim, I heard on a podcast that you were in high school and you squatted 240 pounds for 44 reps. That is correct. That was when I was a sophomore in high school. I was 160 pounds because we had to do our body weight plus a half. And we had to do as many reps as possible. And I squatted 240 for 44 reps. Yep. Made me think, what was your training like back then? I trained 3 days a week. I probably squatted maybe once or twice a week, but I would only do like squats and maybe front squats on Monday and Friday. I would bench. My upper body training was pathetic. I would bench like 2 or 3 sets on Monday and 2 or 3 sets on Friday or something like that. And I do some other mostly lower body stuff, cleans and stuff like that on Wednesday. So it was very much lower body centric. I ran all the time on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, sometimes on Sunday. A lot of jumping. The 240 for 44, I remember doing it. I will say that, and I thought about this the other day. I don't know how old you are when you're a sophomore, 16 years old, but I had a tremendous amount of rage and anger. And I can tell you that nowadays I just don't have that, because I'm 49 years old. I don't have all that rage and anger anymore. But I think a lot of that was just fueled by, I was just wanted to play football and be strong as possible. And I would have literally died to do that 1,000%. Someone asked me about, training and commitment and all that stuff. And I said, listen, when I was in high school, if you would have told me, listen, you'll live to 50 years old, but you have to sign, and if you sign this contract, but you'll be able to play fullback at Nebraska for 4 years, starting fullback, total stud, not playing the NFL, just played at Nebraska, 4 years fullback, I would have signed that in a heartbeat. That's why you don't let the young kids make all their decisions, because they don't make smart decisions. So just to give you an idea of like how committed I was, and I'm not saying other people aren't as committed. I just loved training and I love football more than anything, that I would have suffered through 240 pounds for 44 reps. Now, I remember after we did that test, we had to go out and run 300-yard shuttles. We probably did like 5 of them or something. I remember I fell over. I was crawling. And the coaches were screaming at me, getting all mad at me. And I was like, I couldn't even move. So, yeah, that was my sophomore year. All right, here we go. Rich Stanley says, hey, Jim, happy I could make it. I'm a strength and conditioning coach and normally have a group right now. Thank you for these Q&As. I appreciate it, Rich. Kudos to you. I'm going to guess that you got a lot of kids to work with, and it's a pain in the butt sometimes, but you're doing good work. So congratulations to you. I'm glad you can make it, man. And I'm glad for whatever reason you don't have a group right now, because I know it's a little gift from God that you don't have a group right now. All right. John Donovan asks, what brand of gym timer do you use or recommend for a garage gym? I just use this thing right there for everything. I have a watch. So I don't know anything about that stuff, John. I apologize. I'm sure there's like a million gym timers out there, but I just use my watch, and because I always know where it is, and don't have to like take my phone out, because I used to use my phone occasionally, and it was just a pain in the ass. So anyway, I'm probably one of the last people to wear like a normal watch that isn't like a fitness watch. So Jake says, what's your go-to songs for hitting a PR? Oh, I don't know. I haven't hit a PR in a while. It's not in the weight room, kind of what we're all thinking. One song I always loved was Miari by Today Is the Day. That opening riff is to die for. Awesome. And I love Today Is the Day tuning. The standard tuning with the E string as a B. It just sounds nasty. You guys know the band Torch. They do something similar, but they tune it to A. Anyway, that would probably be my pick, I guess, off the top of my head. Or maybe Cita de la Mente by Brujeria. I think that's a kick-ass riff, too. Oh, my God. There was a song by Blessing the Hogs. Oh, my God. It was on their first album. I can't remember what the name is. If I had the album in front of me, I could tell you probably what it is. But you guys probably, some of you metalheads know who Billy Anderson is. But Billy Anderson was one of the guitarists for Blessing the Hogs. So, it was going to be at least nasty and heavy because it's Billy Anderson. So, Mario says, hello, Jim. You have given a template for the standing press. Do you have any ideas for a weak squat? Yes. My ideas for a weak squat, I'd have to see you squat if I'm going to be completely honest. But the first thing I tell everyone is your midsection probably stinks, because when you're trying to transfer the explosion at the bottom to the bar that's sitting on your back, I see way too many people lose power in there, and that's usually abs and low back. That's one of the big things. I also think that, at least it's been my experience, that magically with the squat, it is a aggression-based movement. I mean, not done like you're going crazy, but I see way too many people trying to academic their squat instead of rage their squat. And I think that's a big thing. I think learning how to push hard out of the hole and learning how to concentrate all that energy, that's more of a mental thing. I never really had a specific squat workout. It was more of a mental thing for me. And as long as your legs are strong. So this is what I would do. I would take 6 weeks or 2 cycles or 3 cycles. Training max is the same. Push that final set. So you're just repeating weights. And in that time, once or twice a week, you do a dumb leg exercise. We've talked about this before. And then you train your abs and low back like an absolute fucking madman. So I would do that for at least 2 months. But the one thing you have to understand when you're trying to bring up a lift that you've already trained, it's going to take some time to increase. You can't just take 4 or 6 weeks because a lot of times when you do that and do like a concentrated workout kind of thing to increase something, a lot of times you get a good squat or whatever, and then you just go right back down because your base building wasn't adequate. So again, I would just keep the training max the same, 8 weeks, 80 to 85% training max, no heavier. Push those final sets. Understand that your other lifts are probably going to suffer, especially your deadlift. Tons of, twice a week, 3 times a week, abs and low back. Get those super strong. If you can't do hanging leg raises and ab wheels with a weight vest on, stuff like that, that's like minimum shit. 45-degree back raises or regular back raises with weight on your back, super important. And then learn how to be aggressive with your squat. It's very rare that I see anyone squat. They're all scared. They're scared to go down. They're scared that they're going to get stuck, all that stuff. You got to learn how to, that's the scariest lift in the weight room, if you're going to be honest, because you feel like you're going to get crushed sometimes. But you got to learn how to turn that switch on. And I think that more than anything will help your squat besides the, getting the dumb leg strength and stuff like that. So, Mike Gray says, I've done ring rows and chins for my back work on accessories and get a total of 50 reps each. Is that sufficient, or should I be doing more weighted back work such as dumbbell, barbell rows, and chins? Yeah, you need to start. You got to add some weight stuff in there. If you're just kind of like where I am right now, I'm just kind of staying in general physical shape. The rows and regular easy rows and chin ups and stuff like that are fine. But if you want to get stronger, you're going to have to lift some heavy shit with your rows and weighted chin ups, T-bar rows, stuff like that, single arm or dumbbell rows. I think they're absolutely important. In fact, I believe other than, I'm swinging a lot here, huh? I got to stay. Okay. Other than like your core work, your abs and low back, I think the upper back lat work, like a single arm dumbbell row, is probably the most important assistance exercise you could probably do, because of its carryover to just about everything. And I think a lot of people, I guarantee it, when I say this, people are going to freak out. It happens all the time, but you should be able to do half your body weight with a dumbbell row for 20 reps. That's bare minimum. All right. That's the kind of just strength and muscle mass you should have. And then you obviously want to see if you can get to 35 reps. So a lot of people think that's freaky. I don't even think that's remotely freaky. We've had high school kids, after a couple months of doing it, get very close. And these kids are 16 years old. So there's no reason why after you train for 3 to 5 years that you can't get that. So Mike, my answer is it is not sufficient. You got to lift some heavy weights. Says, hey, Jim, hope you are well. What is your general opinion on doing more frequent weekly big lifts in tactical barbell method when you do each main lift 2 to 3 times a week compared to once a week? Yeah, you can do that, man, as long as you program it correctly. That's fine. There's a million ways to skin a cat. I don't do it just because we're doing a ton of other shit, and I think it screws you with the recovery, and I haven't noticed any strength gains by doing things more often. We just do things better. I think that's super important. So, but yes, it can be done. As long as you program it correctly, anything can be done. James Manning. Okay. So his MRVs means maximum recoverable volume. Never heard that. That must be brand new. Basically, how do I increase my ability to work more and still be able to recover? Easy. 2 to 3, at least 3 times a week. Zone 2, 2 hours each time. 1 to 2 hours at least. make a giant difference in your recovery besides eating and sleeping. So, and I just get something to monitor your heart rate, get a bike, treadmill, walk, whatever. Best thing you can do. It's absolutely, I've crushed a bunch of conditioning stuff recently, and all I've really been doing at all, besides like some, the regular walrus shit 2 or 3 times a week, has been zone 2 stuff. I've seen it with myself. I've seen it with other guys I train with. That's where I got it from. Unbelievable. So look up your zone 2 heart rate, 60, 70%, I believe. So it's 220 minus your age, and then multiply that by 0.6 and 0.7. I do it probably at least 90 to 120 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. Unbelievable what will happen. So, but you'd be surprised at how light it is, so to speak, or how easy it is. So huge fan of that. It's made a massive difference. Timmy B says, thanks, Jim. That definitely sounds like my general physical preparedness could use some work. I appreciate it. Listen, I cannot, reiterate enough how important it is to raise your general physical preparedness. And again, guys, it's not just dragging a sled a couple times down and back. It has nothing. It's part of GPP, but it's not the only thing. All right. Unless you're a power lifter or Olympic lifter, weight training is part of GPP. But when you raise all abilities, amazing things can happen. Just like James Manning asking about maximum, what is it called? Maximum recoverable volume. Conditioning is part of that. And not just pushing the sled or running hills or running sprints. It's also the easier stuff too. That's all part of getting your body into a cohesive ass kicker. That's how you become a pipe hitter, not by just going bananas all the time and doing a million things. It's doing smart things, being consistent, and giving great effort when it needs to, and doing the smart things when you have to. So Taylor Harm says, what are your favorite cues for breathing and bracing when doing barbell squats for multiple reps? I don't know. I've never really had I don't know. Maybe I just was different. I don't know. I never really had an issue with the breathing. The most important thing was my cues when I was doing any kind of especially lower body exercise, cleans, deadlifts, squats. I learned this at a very young age. I've talked about it quite a bit, but my cue is understanding that everything needs to be directed into the barbell. Okay. I can't have any wasted motion outside. I was never big or strong enough that I could just fart around. So every time I went down, it was like I felt like I was pulling my body apart like a rubber band, and then everything was going into the bar. So I don't squat like this. I think this is fucking stupid, squatting like this, because you end up bending over. And so I would squat with my elbows kind of tucked. And as soon as I hit the bottom, I would jam my elbows. They wouldn't go underneath completely, but it'd be enough. So everything that I did was directed in the bar. Every rep was done with concentration too. I see way too many people. We talked about this earlier today, kind of farting around on the squat, being scared. It doesn't work like that. Everything needs to be, I guess it's like if you spread gunpowder over a huge area, all right, it's not very powerful, but if you bring it all together and pack it tight, it'll, knock your head off. So that's kind of how I pictured it. And I really learned this through throwing the discus. If anyone's throwing the discus or shot put, you can't have any wasted motion. Everything you do has to be directed into the implement. And I've also learned through the discus that you have to be methodical and controlled when you do it. You just can't go, and expect to do anything well. So that was my main cue all the time. No wasted motion. Everything is directed right into that implement, whatever I'm doing. Total concentration, kind of blacked out to the world, so to speak, but, not going crazy, but just really being where I am instead of, thinking about my girlfriend or Instagram or whatever else people kind of fart around with while they lift. I am where I am. That's the advice I can give you, Taylor. So, just when you don't let all your air out the top, I think everyone kind of knows that, right? You don't just go and get weak. You got to stay strong. And the other thing, I guess, is when I was doing, let's say, a set of 10, my goal when I took that bar off, the first thing was to make that bar feel as light as fucking possible when I took the bar off, because that's a mental game. If it feels heavy, then you're already screwed. So that's number one. A lot of that is upper back, abs, and your back strength. And it's also understanding how to play games with your head and understanding that it is going to be light. And number two is I always make sure that first rep looked like I was shot out of a cannon. I gave every possible effort to smoke that first rep, because first rep sets the tone for everything else. So there you go. I'm not sure if that helps. Like, I go, see people try to academic their way through a squat. I just think it's ridiculous. 1980s Life says, Jim, thanks for the live streams. Are you a fan of Iron Maiden? Not really. I mean, I think they write great songs, but I don't like own their entire catalog or anything. When I was growing up, I remember seeing their album covers, and everyone who grew up in that time knows what I'm talking about, especially if you see like Number of the Beast on vinyl. I still think that's one of the greatest album covers of all time. And when I first put it on, I was at my friend Chris's house, and I was kind of disappointed in what I heard, because it wasn't heavy enough for me when I was a kid. I don't know. I was expecting something more like Celtic Frost. And, but over the years, I mean, they're tremendous musicians. I think they're pretty good dudes. At least it seems like it. So it's easier for me to kind of get behind them, but I'm not like a huge Iron Maiden fan. So, Chad Jones says, Jake, much appreciated, brother. Well, thank you very much, Jake. Okay. Chad Jones says, the Witchfinder by Electric Wizard will add 50 pounds to any lower body PR. Guaranteed. Science. Trust the science. Science. Okay. Appreciate it. Harold Vujovic says, at John Donovan, John was asking about the timers. He writes, I have used a free one from Trifecta for years. Here it is. It's super user-friendly. That's super important. So there you go, John. It's called Trifecta Timer, something like that. Look it up. I'm not sure if it's an app or if it's, I don't know. I don't know any of this stuff. Ben Moeller says, do you still think the triumvirate is an appropriate way to go? Yes. Fell off track and read the original 531 to reset the brain. The simplicity of the original book is what a lot of us need. Yes. Listen, man. I think people get, and everyone here kind of knows this, Alan Cosgrove, one of the funniest, best dudes I've ever met in my life, talked about what a beginner goes through. So a beginner reads a magazine or book or something on training, and he says, I should be doing bench press and flies for my chest. And then he reads another article a month later, and he reads incline presses. So he adds incline presses. So now he's doing bench, incline, and flies. And then he reads, I should be doing decline dumbbell presses. So then he adds in decline dumbbell presses. And pretty soon, after 18 months, you got 300 exercises you're doing instead of taking stuff out or, having priorities. And I think a lot of times we do that. And one of the things I have to do as a coach is when I coach, I have to constantly hold myself back in what I give the kids to do, because I always want the kids to have a great training day. I want them to really work on what we are doing, but I don't want to get their work in by doing a million exercises, because that's a fucking scapegoat for hard. So I'd rather have them do 3 awesome things, 3 awesome exercises and kick ass than 10 exercises. And then after a while, they're just mailing it in. And I think that's kind of the beauty of that style of training. You really have to work hard on what you're doing instead of just bombing everything to death, which there is a time and place for that too. Don't get me wrong. But I think a lot of times it's like, let's say you're going to squat and then you're going to do walking lunges for a quarter mile and then ab wheel for 100 reps. Fucking knock it out of the park, kick some ass. And maybe you bench press and then you do 10 sets of 10 of dips and chin-ups or something like that. All right. That way you're actually working hard and your focus is on a few things rather than a lot of different things, and you kind of lose track. So Is it an appropriate way to go? Yes. Is it the only way to go? Hell no. But if you fall off track, Ben, I always have this. I always had a list of things I need to do if I feel like I'm getting off track. I can't remember what I called it, but I urge people to do this is, have maybe 10 things, like when you feel like you've gotten off track anywhere, this could be anywhere, not just training, but life. Like, what are the things I need to do? For example, if you're kind of feeling like you're getting weak in life, so to speak. So then, like, what are the 10 things you need to do? Like, what can you do that you have control over? As an example, like, listen, every morning I'm going to wake up at 5 in the morning and I'm going to do some kind of training. It doesn't have to be incredible weight training, but 30 minutes, I'm just going to do, ride the bike for 10 minutes and do push-ups and squats or something, just to get my life back on order. Every day I'm going to read for 30 minutes. I'm not going to be on social media until 7 p.m. or something like that. I'm going to be in bed at 9 o'clock. I'm just making this shit up. So you need to do that same kind of thing for training. And hopefully when you do that, you start developing habits, especially with your regular life too. So anyway, I know I kind of got off track there, Ben. All right, here we go. Yo says, hello, Jim. What are your thoughts on doing chins on all upper body days and rows on lower body days, thus working the back directly 4 times a week? Yeah, you can do that. We used to train, like when I was at Kentucky with Kevin, when we were training in the football weight room. We had a ton of different machines and a lot of stuff. So we would usually do some kind of lat work 4 to 5 times a week, even if it was, 3 sets of the hammer row, 3 sets of 10 to 25 reps with, whatever, just 2 plates per side. So yes, I think you can do it. I don't think it's something you have to do year round or all the time, but yes, I think you can do it. So. The Colorado athlete says MEV, the minimum effective, is all stuff marketed by Dr. Mike over at Renaissance Periodization. Their message is directed towards hypertrophy. All right, there we go. James Manning says, thanks, man. I will edit it. It is awesome, James. Vincent DeCenzo has been talking a lot about Zone 2. I'm sure, I don't know. I'm sure people have talked about it, but I got it from Vincent. And I didn't even realize I was doing Zone 2 conditioning until one day I looked it up and I was like, holy shit, that's where my heart rate is the entire time I'm doing stuff. So huge fan. All right, here we go. Shane Stork says, you're a fan of college football. You a fan of the college football playoff system? Yes. I think how they do it is stupid, though. I mean, Arizona State, this is not because I went to U of A, should have not gotten the bye. I think that was ridiculous. They need to get rid of the conference champions. What I think they should do is use the old BCS system, rank the teams like that, and then wherever you fall, that's, the first 4 get a bye, stuff like that. So, but I'll tell you what, Arizona State's super impressive, and Cam Scadaboo is an absolute fucking baller. I think he's the 2nd best running back this year. Obviously, oh my God, the kid from Boise State, Ashton Genty's unbelievable. So the best balance I've ever seen in a running back unbelievable balance, and just knowing where his body is. That stuff, listen, you can't train for that. That's fucking God-given, man. It's unbelievable watching that kind of talent. And then you add in the fact that he's probably worked his ass off and paid his dues. So anyway, how about Belichick going to run a football business in North Carolina? I'm not a huge fan of that. I think there's a big difference between college coaching and pro coaching, just like there's a difference between high school coaching and college and whatnot. So, but you know what? We'll see how it goes. Belichick, I think he's deserved the respect, and he deserves a chance if he wants to do it. It's a whole nother ball game. It's very, very different. So heavyweight, thank you so much, buddy. Again, you don't have to do that, but thank you for the donation. I'll buy myself something nice. Buy myself those nipple rings I've always wanted. Carlos D says, your thoughts on USAW certifications and other relevant ones. Thank you for all you do. USAW, I assume that's United States. I assume that's the weightlifting one. I'm going to guess that's what it is. Listen, I guess you're going to have some kind of standard or system to get people to show what people know. I mean, that's why there's med school, right? And there's going through law school and stuff like that. So, but to think that if you pass that, I don't even know what a lot of these certifications take, but I mean, I guess it's one way to weed people out. But if you think you having a certification means you know something or can coach, I mean, I don't think anyone actually really believes that, do they? I mean, if you really know anything about anything, I'm not certified in anything. It doesn't mean that there's not great coaches that do that stuff at all. I just don't think that's the only way to doing it. But again, what are you supposed to do? I think, so if I was a young man trying to do this, I would get my CSCS or something, something like that, the CSCCA or whatever it's called. But at the same time, I've seen some of the smartest people I've ever seen in training. I mean, guys that understood all the science and stuff. Some of the worst coaches. I mean, the worst coaches I've ever seen. I tell this story. I never will name names because I think that's tacky. But when I was a young man, I used to read whatever I could on strength training, just like many of you. It was a little harder to come by, and I frequently read this author or this coach. And he was obviously very, very smart, and he had some, I just read everything I could that he wrote. And then I had a chance to be coached by him. And I think he was the worst fucking coach I've ever seen. One of the worst coaches. And I remember after he walked away, I was so heartbroken. I was like, God damn, is that bad? Is that poor? And what's funny is the guy who mentored me, Darren Llewellyn, he doesn't have any certifications. He just trained hard and worked, played a bunch of sports and trained and learned how to train through the sports. He billion times better coach than this guy. And so I realized, and this was when I was probably 19 years old. It was tough to see, man. I'll be honest with you. Again, it's not going to guarantee anything, but I guess you do need something. So John Donovan says, hey, Jim, thanks for all these great live streams. Well, I appreciate it, John, and your chat board. All right. I appreciate chat board. All right. You want to hear a funny story? So my wife, she's not here right now, so I can tell the story. My wife I love my wife to death. She's the greatest human being I've ever met in my life. I love her. And she's part of the school board. She helps with the junior high training, all this done. Obviously she doesn't get paid, or she does get paid for school board. It's nothing. But she is incredibly gullible when it comes to me. I tell stories all the time, or I say something and then she believes me all the time. So this morning I woke up and I nudged her and I said, hey, I appreciate the rim job last night, late at night. And she's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, I was like, well, that was you, right? That licked my beehole, right? That was you. And she's like, oh my God, what happened? I'm like, I don't know, man, but that was awesome. I really appreciate it. And I walked away, and she was freaking out, thinking that she did something, obviously she doesn't want to do, but, and she's storming around the house. I do that shit all the time, and she always falls for it. I could win an Oscar. All right. That was my nighttime rim job story. Oh, my poor wife. She's going to hate that I told that story, but she'll never watch this. So All right. The Colorado athlete says, I competed in powerlifting during college, but recent years, more towards general physical preparedness, mountaineering. Ooh, good for you. And in general, to be horsecock strong rather than focus on squat, bench, and deadlift only. 531 has been great. I'm on cycle 14. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I think I mentioned in the last live stream, like my main goals right now are just climbing up shit, hills or stairs or incline treadmills with a weight vest on. That's my only goal right now, besides just general, doing some weightlifting shit here and there. So it's been a long road getting back healthy enough to do a lot of that stuff, but that's where my focus is. So mountaineering and oh my God, I read an awesome quote by Hemingway the other day, speaking of mountaineering. So I think Hemingway did that. Hemingway did everything. Like big game hunter, flew an airplane, was in the war, fantastic writer. All right, here we go. Carlos D says, do you like game day lists for football players or any sport, or are you opposed to it? So this is what I'll say, Carlos. If I can avoid it, I would avoid it. But if you are in a sport where you're playing 2 or 3 times a week, I think you can easily get away with game day lifts, easily, as long as you're like not a total dumbass coach. I would avoid. Here's the thing: I would avoid it if I have to. But if you have a super busy schedule and you're especially early on during the season, I think you should 100% do it. You just have to know how to program it. And that's, to me, super easy to do. Just don't do anything stupid. But yeah, you can, on game day, you could easily squat or trap bar and stuff like that. You just have to don't program it like an idiot. So there you go. Tom Bryan says, got your live. Got the live stream on while hitting the walrus workout, 20 rounds of 2 chin-ups, 5 push-ups with a 10 kilogram vest. Nothing amazing, but not off either. Well, that is plenty amazing, dude. I've said this before, guys. Never downplay your ass kickingness. All right. God, I wish I could remember the Hemingway quote. It said something like, never. Your goal is not to feel superior to other men. The goal is to feel superior to your former self. Holy shit. Look at that. I'm really paraphrasing that, but Tom, that's what my advice to you is: never downplay. Just try to do better than yourself. Don't compare yourself to, Johnny Walrus or, the guy who can do a million things. All right. That's fine. Listen, if every kid compared themselves to Barry Sanders and Ashton Genty, they would never play football. All right, just try to be a little better than you were before. All right, so I always thought it was weird, and I think this attitude, if I'm going to be completely honest, is fucking disgusting. Is when people say, when they see see a middle-aged guy, me, whatever, and you see a young kid deadlift 900 pounds and he's 21 years old, they say something like, "Oh, why do I even train?" Stuff like that. Now, a lot of that is tongue in cheek, but I think a lot of people actually believe that shit. And it drives me nuts that someone else's success would bury you. When, to me, when I see someone have success, I just see it as a springboard for my own. Like, it can be done. I can do this. So just don't ever do that stuff. It drives me nuts. And guess what, man? Dude, Walter Payton, to me, is the greatest football player of all time. Imagine if Barry Sanders, was only 5'6". Well, shit, I'm not Walter Payton. I guess I can't play football. Fuck that. You can do great. All right, here we go. The Colorado athlete says, the most impactful statement you said for me was nearly 10 years ago at Elite, saying, you just said you felt great, so why are you changing anything about people wanting to have an extra day? Listen, that's awesome. I have to say that to myself a lot of times too. So what he's saying is, a lot of times people will say, just to clear this up, hey, Jim, everything's going good, whatever, just that. I was thinking about adding in an extra X, Y, and Z. And I'd always say, well, why, dude, you feel great. Things are going good. Why are you fucking with it? All right, take that winning lottery ticket as far as you can. And then when things go to shit or you start to feel bad, then you can start doing different stuff. So All right, Mr. Blankenship says, good morning, Jim. When you were at Westside, how often did you cycle through your max effort exercises and retest them? All right, you guys ready for a little, I don't know. This is how we did it when I was there. Maybe things were different at other times, but max effort day was just pretty much, and I swear to God, other than maybe my floor press and my 2 board and 3 board, a lot of times people would just choose an exercise. It's usually someone, the senior guys in there, whatever. So Chuck usually chose stuff, and maybe Dave or Louie, and we would just do whatever it is. And we didn't have like a cycle. Like we didn't do 4 exercises and then repeat them. It was just whatever someone wanted to do, and then it was done. So I know that's probably not what you want to hear. Before I got to Westside, we would probably have 3 or 4 max effort exercises for the bench, and maybe 2 for the squat and 2 for the deadlift. And we would just alternate, the movements. So I guess probably around 4, I guess the best way to say it. I hope that, so I think like we did 2 board, 3 board, floor press. And then I don't know, I know we did another one, but it might be like maybe that day we did something, whatever you kind of want to do. And then I think we did rack pulls, deficit deads, safety bar squats, and maybe a low box squat or something for squat. So, going back now, if I have a little bit of clarity, I would have stuck to a lot of floor presses. I would have stuck to a lot of probably, I don't know, maybe deficit pulls, maybe rack pulls, because I like doing rack pulls. I just don't think they really did anything, but it was fun to do. That was always the best day when Kevin and I trained, was rack pull day. It was that's when no one wanted to do anything stupid and just have some fun. And then I would have pushed my leg assistance much, much more. So, all right, here we go. Heavyweight says, your humor is legendary. I'm trying to do better at these and be more personable. I was kind of dry the first couple. I don't know. I'm getting used to this shit. So thank you, Heavyweight Squared. Oh, shit. Ragnar's here. Ragnar Lothbrook says, hey, Jim, my pectoralis major tendon is the reason my bench press is not getting stronger. Do you know what to do with this? I'm stuck at 100 kilograms times 5 reps. Listen, I'm not an expert on this stuff, and I don't want to point you in the wrong direction, but generally speaking, I would probably do some higher rep like flies. I don't know if flat and maybe slightly, 45-degree incline. And when I say higher rep, I mean take 5-pound plates or 10-pound plates and do sets of 50 or 100 or something in there, and just really get that tendon stronger, because I know tendons, it takes a lot of time. The other thing I would do, Ragnar, is I would look at all that stuff as a long-term process. So 12 to 16 months or something in there. I'm just making that up, but I wouldn't be looking to do 4 weeks of X, Y, and Z and thinking that it's going to make a huge difference. So I would take a long-term approach, because you do not want to tear anything, because once you do that, your body's really not going to be much the same. So I would probably look at higher rep stuff, maybe 2 times a week. And again, when I say higher rep, I'm saying sets of, 50 to 100, somewhere in there. I mean, just tons of reps. So that's what I would be. But again, Ragnar, I am not an expert on that. So Joe, oh my God, Marikarlar. Oh, geez. I'm sure I butchered that, Joe. I apologize. He says, we went entire football season using 5-3-1. Monday, what is this? 6 lifts, and Wednesday 6 lifts, 12 total for the week. Finish 8-2. Anything else you recommend? Listen, Joe, this is the best advice I'm going to give you. Is I don't know how long you've been doing this, but what's going to happen is, every year I've gotten better at coaching, especially the in season, obviously off season, but the in season to me is the most important thing. So what I want you to do, Joe, is look at what you're doing, and especially with in-season training, is there anything in there that you guys don't need to do? It's a waste of time. So look at that before you do anything else, because everyone's, when they go to training program or whatever, the first thing that they want to do is, what can I add in? Me, I want to learn how to take shit out. So as an example, Joe, we, other than like our warm up, which is chin ups and neck work, that's how the kids enter the weight room. That's the first thing they do. We do 3 lifts a day. We do the main lift and 2 assistance lifts. So I don't know how that fits into your training. We also do mobility work and jumping and stuff like that. Movement stuff is part of our warm up, because I've found out that during the season, the kids need a little extra movement before they just go into the main lift. The other thing we did on trap bar day is we always did our assistance work, which was an upper body push and upper body pull before we deadlifted. Made a giant difference in their performance on the deadlift because their bodies were really warmed up. And again, during the season, we had, obviously like everyone else, we had, probably 40 minutes total to train. So I would just learn how to take stuff off that you don't need. Doesn't mean you take everything out. It just means look at what you're doing and then excise anything that doesn't 100% need to be there. Ragnar, he's got the bad pec. He says my right side could do at least 3 more reps while my left side gives up. Weird to explain. Nope. I had that with my shoulder impingement probably since sophomore year of high school. So I totally get it. Shane says, Merry Christmas, Jim and family. Thank you very much, Shane. I appreciate that. We're wrapping, or I should say my wife is wrapping presents today for James. We spoil the shit out of James at Christmas time. Or I should say my wife does. I don't know. I've never bought my wife a gift in my entire life, and I actually bought something this year. So, but you'll probably get it in the mail and open it up. So, all right. Heavyweight says, it's nice to see the audience continues to grow as well. If I'm doing a Joker set after an AMRAP, should I cap my AMRAP sets? Here's what I'm going to tell you, Heavyweight. You ready for this? You've got enough experience. You should know. So the only thing is, if you're doing, let's say you got whatever, 300 pounds on the bar and your all-time record's 10 reps, and you get to 8 and you're like, dude, I know I got 4 in me. Fucking go for it, because take advantage of that awesome day. If you're like, listen, it's going to be, I got, X amount left of me, I know it, then I would cap it. But you got way too much experience training, not to understand that, listen, some sets have to be capped and some sets you just let them go. So you got to draw on that. And I can't teach that and I can't coach that. Another thing is, man, if you go into a week and like you always, for example, I did this a lot. Like if I go in and I'm like 405 and 455 feel amazing. And like I've always wanted to squat, let's just say 585 for 4 reps or something, which is way over where I could be. I would just work up and try that. So I'm probably going to get a lot of weird questions about that. So if I felt like I was ready to go, then I would do it. If not, I would just do the set and have a general idea where I want to be. But if I can push farther, then I would. So Tom Bryan says, thanks. It's hard not to compare yourself to others. Like, listen, I get it. To me, it should give you inspiration of where others have gone, but you got to blaze your own path. That's how it has to be. Okay. If not, then everyone's just going to put their head in the dirt and complain. Push, push, push. Just try to be better you. Heavyweight says, I do notice that since I dropped the training max, all my assistant work has been stronger, and I'm still doing FSL work for force development. There you go. After 3 cycles, I decided to allow someone I programmed to do some dumb stuff after his AMRAP set. He put a weight on, and he failed before I started training him and smoked it for 3 fast reps. It felt good to see progress in others. And, yep. Priya, I've said this before, man. When I first started coaching at London, I remember I was sitting in this chair and I was like, well, this is where the rubber meets the road. I'm going to see how good of a coach I am. And I was super nervous because it could have been easy to say no. and not help and just pretend that I was a fairly good coach. And if I'm going to be honest, I'm a way better coach now than I was then, and I'm happy I did it. So, all right, here we go. Spence is killing me. Training team conditioning outside of New England winters, no sleds, but a 100-yard field and a 400-meter track. 10 rows of stadium steps. What would you recommend for winter programming? Man, I don't know. So what we do is we generally do one day is always the sled. So we have one kind of shitty day, if I'm going to be completely honest. So I would recommend one hard day. What that means for you, Spence, it's going to be, I don't know. But have one day where the kids know, like, listen, today is going to kind of suck. It doesn't have to be a throw-up day, but it has to be something. You're like, listen, we're always going to run 1600s every minute on the minute, and we got to get it done. This is just an idea. So that would be one thing. The other days is we do one day where it's very easy. So we'll do, 10 50s. And the rest will be based on their preparedness or readiness for that day. But we generally try to do every 30 seconds or 45 seconds. But the kids are struggling. We just want them to run. And another day, this is sacrilege. We just do laps around the field. We do 1 lap, rest, 1 lap, rest. We do that 4 times. I call that the Raider Mile. That's just for general running conditioning. I don't really care if the kids run massively hard. I just want the kids to run. And I've said this, and I know people are going to probably annoyed. Man, we run year round. We just don't run very hard year round. We never, ever get out of shape. Our kids are always running. It's not a lot. It takes maybe 10, sometimes minutes, 20 minutes. Our running on Wednesday took 9 minutes. But the key is we're doing something. Our bodies never, our hips and knees and ankles aren't getting out of shape for running, because that's another big thing. My Spence is killing me. If I were you, I would run 1 hard day and then 2 kind of easy days. And what that means for you guys, I don't know, but our kids are constantly running and they're never getting out of shape. Now, eventually on Wednesdays, when it kind of clears up, we'll do more of agility work that day. It's not conditioning, so to speak. It's done with performance and execution in mind, but they're still letting their body adapt. I always want to sprint year round if we can. I always want to run, not jog year round. I always want to jump year round. I don't want to take a ability away from the kid than having to reintroduce it, because it's a whole nother ball game. So I hope that makes sense to you. So Zachary says, good morning, Jim. How would you suggest progressing hill sprints over the long haul if you only have one hill in your town? Listen, this is what I would do, Zach, is I would kind of put a cap on where you want to be and see. And then once you get there, for example, mine was always 10 sprints up the hill. That's where I wanted to be. I wanted to get there to the point where that was kind of the norm and it was easy. And it took a while. That doesn't mean I just ran 8 sprints over and over again. It just some days. So what I would do is I would set a cap. All right. Because once you can't just, the problem with the hill is a lot of people, as Walter Payton explained, the hill's always going to win. You can always do one more. But when that gets to the point, then you end up doing 1 million hill sprints, and now everything else is going to suffer unless that is your specific goal. So I would probably set a limit of where you want to be and learn how to maintain that. It's going to take you a while to get up there. So as an example, it took me like 6 months to get to the point where the 10 hill sprints I was able to do, and I was able to get stronger while doing them. I hope that. So when I first introduced the hill sprint, Zach, everything just hit the dumper real quick. My legs, everything, bench press went down, everything. It was horrible. So I let my body adapt over time. I capped it, and that was the goal, is to get to 10. So what I ended up doing is I did those 3 days a week. Doesn't mean you have to. And generally speaking, maybe 2 or 3 times a month on like a Saturday. If I felt good, I would push for like a 15 or 20 or do something kind of dumb. Okay. But you got to learn how to progress. I would also, when I progressed, I think I maintained like 6 for like a month. And then I bumped up to 8. And then if I felt bad, I would just do 6. So it took me, like I said, like 6 months to get there. You don't have to just go up 1 every time. It doesn't work like that. Let your body adapt to the initial shittiness of hill sprints and then work up slowly. Lonnie Watson says, if I finish a cycle and it's not strong, I don't raise the training max. I repeat the cycle. We repeat cycles all the time. So Lonnie, you are correct. We didn't increase the training max once during the season, and kids fucking got strong as shit. So, but everyone kind of understands that, I think. Matt Holder says, what's up, Jim? I'm trying to keep this short. I'm 42 years old, and I followed the original 531 with walrus-style assistance work, kettlebell, hill sprints, power for conditioning. Feel great. Thanks for all you do. I appreciate it, Matt. Very awesome. The only thing I'm going to tell you, buddy, is make sure you get some rowing in, like single arm or like T-bar rows. Keep that in. Do that. I wouldn't do that as part of your walrus assistance work. Just do it right after the main lift. I think that's super important to do. And don't forget abs and low back. A couple sets, 2 or 3 times a week. Take you 10 minutes. Awesome. Taylor says, currently running the whip in the body, okay, for the squat and bench. What do you think about running the main lifts on the 5-3-1 rep schedule and supplemental on the 3-5-1? That's fine. Totally fine. I think that's a good idea too. So you're good to go, Taylor. Good to go. Roni Matilla says, Kerry King bait thumbnail. Going to see the great bald one in Brutal Salt. All right. In 2025. I don't know if is that part of Slayer or is that part of his band. I don't know. But the guy's an amazing guitarist. Holy cow. Heavyweight says, Jim, you're spot on about my question about the AMREPs and jokers. I just overthink this whole central nervous system adaptation. I've been in hitting 15 reps on week 3 when I've couldn't got it close to 20. Yeah, you got to learn. Especially the more advanced you are, the harder that stuff is on your body. So, but I also remember this was probably in 2003. I was talking to Louis. He was here in London, and I was overthinking the central nervous system. And he just looked at me, cocked his head. He's like, you just got to get stronger. Quit being a pussy. And I'll never forget that. I was in a parking lot. We were going to get something to eat, and he just tilted his head like Louis does. Quit being a pussy. Don't worry about central nervous. You just got to get stronger. All right. Jesse says, hey, Jim, just finished Outlive by Peter Attila. Okay, I know who he is. Great book on longevity in life. Strength training is the #1 thing he recommends for longevity. Good book if you're looking for something to read. I will check that out. Zachary says, thank you for your help. Do you think there would be any value in only doing hill sprints once a week? Yes, 1,000%. Yeah, that's a great idea. Much easier on your body as long as your ankles and Achilles. That's the #1 thing I think we've had issues with. I think that's a great idea. That way Saturdays is just hill sprints. You're just going to go, kick your ass at the hill. So you got to work yourself up to something and learn how to maintain that. And then, man, if you feel good on a day, Zach, go for broke and see how you feel. But just understand there's always going to be consequences, and that's fine. Consequences are fine if you're willing to pay them. Okay, Carlos D says, do you use whistle on command with all your athletes during sets and reps, or whistle starts for each set and start timer? I know you're high school, but applying it for middle school. All right, so with each, this is the way we do it. I have obviously my watch. I use that as a timer. There's 3 or 4 kids at a rack. I say we got our first set here. We got 3 reps and go. And all the kids in that rack have to get their 3 reps in the time that it takes, which is usually 2 minutes. And then obviously the next set they have to be ready for when I say go. So we don't do a whistle on the up and down or anything like that. And we don't do every single set for each guy at the rack on a whistle. They just have to get all the kids in the rack set done before we start again. And it was a pain in the ass getting started, if I'm going to be honest. But it has been the best thing I did as far as under organization and coaching has been doing every set on a timer for the main lifts. It has made our workouts a billion times more efficient, and it took forever to get everyone on the same page. And one of the big things, especially with the young kids, is learning how to do bar math. I don't want to have to be able to have to tell every single kid what their weights are, and that's part of what we teach in middle school. So when we first started this, though, Carlos, we used a longer rest period so everyone could understand it. I wasn't throwing all the kids in like this fire and say, we got to go, we got to go, we got to go. I slowed everything down, made sure the kids understood. We just the same thing when we started training. We didn't do a million exercises. We just taught one thing. I just wanted to teach and coach and not do so with the feeling that we had a lot of other stuff to do that day. So I hope that makes sense. Just be patient, give them more time. You don't have to do everything in the world, because a couple weeks of doing things a little slower and maybe not all the sets and reps of every exercise will pay off in the long run. When I say long run, I don't mean the off season. I mean in 4 years. And then when it just keeps on cycling over, so then the older guys can now teach the younger guys when they're in part of the group. So can you please start? Sue Spence is like, thanks for the conditioning. Most of our athletes either play both ways or play multiple sorts. So we want to have all qualities year round. You are correct. Can you please start the streams with a whistle? Oh, I don't even own a whistle. Oh, it would kill me. How would you build a habit, learning new skill to change job? How would I build a habit? Continuously practice as much as you can. Set aside time, I guess, is the best way, and just be patient. It's not going to come overnight. So, a new skill to change it. That skill is a little bit different. I don't know what you have access to outside your home, but I would do it at least once a day. If you could do it a couple times a day. But the key with building a habit is you just got to have the discipline to do it all the time. That's the hardest thing to do. James Welton says, what's your method of delivery and tracking for your program? We print out sheets for each kid, and then the kids write down whatever numbers that they have to write down next to the weights. It's very, very simple. We have an Excel program on my computer, and we just, at the end of every training cycle, we go in, if I change numbers, anything I need to, and then we just give the kids new papers. So in regards to the high schoolers, do you track everything? What autonomy, if tracking, do the kids have? I own the barbell. They do everything else. That's so they have autonomy over everything else. I can't track dumbbell incline press and stuff like that, or rows or curls or anything. So we track the barbell stuff. They're in charge of the assistant stuff. So that's about everything. You can't track everything. It would take me 20 hours a day to get everything done. It would be a pain in the ass. Quick question. Would you recommend just doing 5 through 1 without the extra FSL work, or is that not recommended? Sometimes I just get burnt out doing the extra sets. Would you recommend? Yes, you don't have to do FSL work, and I think sometimes you should, but you don't have to do it for every single lift all the time. So yes, I would recommend it, but I think there's a time and place for other stuff too. Jesse, there's not one way of doing stuff. And if you don't feel like doing the FSL work or it's burning you out, then don't do it. You'll be fine. Just do the main work and kick ass with the assistants. You'll be fine. Anything's going to work if you give effort and you're consistent within reason. All right, that needs to be understood. All right, it's 11:08. I'll answer a couple more here. Or just one more. Matt Holder says, my training max is 80% has been a huge help. How I feel. Still feel strong and able to recover. Walrus for assistance and the conditioning help my jiu-jitsu. Next will be something stupid hard with the Prowler. Yep. Dude, Prowler's awesome. Prowler and sled. Love it, love it, love it. And it's applicable, for example, with James, my youngest kid. It's been awesome because it's great for strengthen his legs because it's so easy. And then it's great for me, who's older and beat the fuck up. Again, for almost the same exact reasons, but it works great for, incredible beginners and for super advanced older people too. So the good thing, Matt, is something stupid hard with the prowler is still not horrible for you. Try to get like a mile. See if you can map out a mile, Matt, and just start with something really light and just see how it feels, and then figure out, like, listen, and the other thing is, don't put a time thing on there. Load up whatever plates in and said, listen, man, I got as much time as I need. Obviously, you probably have to do this on a day off because if you load it enough, you're going to need some time to recover that day. So anyway, thank you guys so much. I appreciate a ton of questions today. It's been awesome. I will see you guys. I guess that'll be almost our Christmas special. Yeah, I hope everyone gets their shopping done. I hope everyone's healthy. Okay, here we go. I'll answer a few more. Riku says, next year I want finally. Okay. Next year I want to finally make some real progress. Another year went by with the same weights. Can you give me some tips and program how I get stronger? Thank you. Listen, follow the base 531 program. Use an 80% training max to start with, and push the shit out of your assistance, 2 to 3 assistance lifts, and make sure you're eating and sleeping. I think people don't understand. Build some muscle with the assistance lifts, guys. That doesn't mean you become a bodybuilder. It means you eat and train the assistance with some. You want to get a little bigger. If you're not getting, especially if you're a natural guy, like, you're going to have to put on some muscle and you're going to have to gain some weight if you want to get stronger. So if you are terrified of eating, you got to eat. If you're severely underweight, you're going to have to get uncomfortable. So that's what I would do. And I would probably tell you, listen, lift weights 3 times a week. If you can get 4 and feel like if you're not making progress doing 4, do 3. And learn to push, learn to eat. Keep an eating log, all right? And figure out, like, Whole Foods, man. That's where it's at, all right? John says, do you still read every day? Yes. And do you have any experience with audiobook? No. I've listened to, like, I think 2 or 3 books on, like, I guess it was CD. This was a long time ago when my wife and I took a whole bunch of road trips before James was born, and we would just pop in an audiobook. We'd go to, like, Cracker Barrel, or some gas station and buy an audiobook or something. So, but yeah, I don't really listen to that stuff. So, but I can see, like, it was fun while we did it. So, yes, I still read every day. Dude, you got to read. Strengthens the mind. All right, I'm out of here, people. I don't think I am going to train today. I'll be completely honest. So don't tell anyone. I haven't had a day off in a while. Anyway, love you guys. Thank you guys. I will see you next Friday. Get your shit done. Do something dumb this weekend if you can. Love you. Bye.